How do you go about proving standard of care, and why is that so important? Want to know what I'm getting at here? Stay with me as I share with you this very important information. Hello, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm a childbirth injury and medical malpractice attorney practicing law here in the state of Maryland. And I would like to quickly talk with you today about that question. Standard of care, how do you prove it? Why is that so important when we are talking about specifically a birth injury or birth trauma case? Now, before this video, Renee just shot a video in which she talked more in detail about the standard of care. Why is that so important? And I'm going to take it a step further to show how do we know what the standard of care is, or how do we prove that standard of care when we are discussing birth trauma cases. All right, so let me jump back and quickly give you a small foundation as to the thrust of her video, which essentially was how, what is that standard of care? Essentially, it is what a reasonable and prudent doctor would do under the same set of circumstances. And what she did is she gave two examples in regards to the standard of care. In the first example she gave, you had a mother who showed up to the hospital, had meconium in the fluid. The fetal heart monitor was non-reassuring. I mean, we had late decelerations, you had problems with variability, you've got all of this stuff going on, especially with the baby's heart rate. Mom is hemorrhaging and things like that. Doctors assess everything and they say, look, this is not going well. We need to move to an emergency C-section to help this baby out. That was the first example that she gave. And in that example, she argued that there was a strong possibility that that would be within the standard of care, possibly in that situation. Second situation, same thing when I just said. Mom is present, there's meconium in the water. When the fluid breaks, the fetal heart monitor, non-reassuring. You've got late decelerations, you've got heart issues, all of those things. And in that situation, the doctors do not move to an emergency C-section. They let mom go ahead and continue to bear down and continue to labor through. And then when the baby is born, vaginal delivery, you've got the baby's suffering from seizures, you've got a situation in which the baby is blue in color, having to go to the NICU, low APGAR scores, all of these things going on. And in that second scenario she gave, she strongly suggested that there's a good argument that that doctor and those nurses fell below that standard of care owed to them because they did not act how a reasonable and prudent doctor would act under the same set of circumstances, and this is what led to the baby's injury. Now, I know that's a mouthful. I tried to do that video as quick as possible. Now, let's move to what this video is about. And the reason why I talked about that foundation is because now you'll see why that part was so important. All right, so standard of care, how do we prove that? To know what the standard of care is, I have to use, or we have to get medical experts who will review the case. They will look at what happened with your baby, and they are going to assess and they're going to review and determine what would have been the standard of care given your circumstances. That's very important that you understand that. Medical experts, Maryland law requires that medical experts, doctors and people like that, will take a look at this, and then they will give an opinion as to what should the doctors have done in your situation, and whether the doctor's actions or their failure to follow the standard of care is what caused your baby's injury, the harm or the damage done to your child. So I know this was this might be a little bit of a longer video than what we normally do, but I was trying to make sure that you understand these concepts because they are very important when we are talking about a birth injury case. And you should also be able to see that just because you have a bad result, that does not necessarily mean that medical malpractice occurred, because, like I said earlier in this video, you have to be able to prove the standard of care. And sometimes you can have cases in which doctors do everything right. They stay within that standard of care and you still have an injury. So why have I taken the time today to talk with you about this really important information? Because I'm giving you insight into this process. I'm helping you understand when you are thinking about bringing a birth trauma or a birth injury case, or a medical malpractice case for that matter, why these concepts are important, why it's important for you to understand what is the analysis, where are the attorneys looking when we're reviewing the records, some of the things that they're going to take into consideration before being able to give you a decision as to whether or not you have a viable birth trauma case. If you have more questions about what's going on, maybe you're watching this video because in that example I gave earlier about the baby being blue in color, or the baby having to be rushed to the NICU, or the baby having low APGAR scores, or not meeting certain neonatal milestones, or a cerebral palsy diagnosis, or the mention of HIE in regards to your baby's medical records. Maybe you have these things going on and you would like to speak with someone. You know that there are going to be challenges for your baby going into the future, and you're like, look, I got to talk to somebody about what's going on. We need help. If you have all of this going on and you would like to speak with me further, this is what I invite you to do. And remember, taking this next action, it costs you absolutely nothing. And what is that action? To pick up the phone and give me a call. I can be reached at 301-850-4832, or if you prefer, you can send me an email to medicalinjury@bostonlawllc.com. You can also reach me toll free at 1-833-4BABY-HELP. I answer birth trauma and birth injury cases, talk to families who babies have CP diagnoses and other birth-related issues, brain injuries and things like that. This is what we do. We speak with families and we help families that are in this situation. All right, that's going to be it for today's quick educational video. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth injury and medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here at Boston Law Group LLC, and we will see you next time. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.